All right, I think we're live. Welcome, everybody. Very excited to have you all join us today to discuss the hidden metrics buyers look for in high growth Amazon businesses. So, as a quick introduction, I am Fiona Laidlaw, Regional Director for the APAC region at Flippa. I have had over 7 years of deal sourcing and closing across different markets. And I'm joined here today with Thomas from Top Dog, the founder and brains behind Top Dog. And Thomas is a self-taught Amazon business owner. I believe he's sold businesses with his Amazon businesses before as well. Speaker at Amazon events around the world, and that's in fact how we met in Shanghai. And so we're here today with a real life case study to dive into valuations, what buyers perceive as risks, and then how you can help establish your business to then gain a better valuation in the future. And we'll wrap up with some questions at the end. So first off, just starting off with a valuation breakdown, going then to pass it over to Thomas. And as I said, wrap up with some Q&A at the end. Right. So for those who aren't too familiar with Flippa, we are the number one business or digital platform for M&A for digital businesses. So that does include different business types, SaaS, but a large group of this is Amazon businesses. And we as brokers will help determine valuations before going to market and help sell through. Today, I'm really going to focus in on that valuation and what determines that. So we use market-based valuations, we use comparables. So we've been around for 16 years, and as you can imagine, have sold through a lot of businesses in that time. And so we do use what has been sold before, what the market conditions are, and we compare that to your business and determine a valuation range. And so we really look at a couple of things, and that includes the opportunity of the business and the risks of the business. And these, I'm going to break it down a little bit more as we go through. But the two questions that a buyer that is important is, as a buyer, they are going to determine what they believe the business is worth, and they are going to determine what the deal structure is to help mitigate any risks of the business. So whilst we will determine pretty accurate market-based valuations, different buyers will themselves look at the risk of the business and then determine theirs as well. But just understanding the metrics, as I mentioned, different types of businesses, but we're focusing on Amazon today and the factors that influence Amazon businesses. So a couple of things to keep in the back of your mind is transferability. So how transferable is an Amazon store to a new buyer? There it is, and we do this all the time, and there are tools and people that can help do that if there is some risk to the account. But if you think about transferability, you can think about it in other ways as well. So is a product transferable to another market, to another platform? And that, of course, is going to affect decisions as well. Documentation is a really key one. A buyer will verify absolutely everything in the business. So do you have the documentation to support that? I've mentioned risks numerous times. We're going to keep talking about that, but it's really key you have an understanding of your business and the risks it has. Every business has risks. It's just about understanding them and then using resources like Thomas and his team to catch up those risks or de-risk them, um, and of course optimize the business. Growth opportunities and scalability, two key ones there. Buyer does not buy a business for it to stay stagnant. They buy a business to grow it. So there has to be these opportunities. There has to be gaps in the business as well. There always will be, and it's how is a buyer going to be able to put their knowledge, their resources in to scale that business. Defensibility, of course, we're going to be using a case study today. The case study is a fantastic business. It is in a highly competitive niche. However, I'll kind of discuss a little bit more about why that may be not necessarily a bad thing for this particular business. And I think growth levers and growth opportunities kind of tie in there together. But those levers are a little bit more the tools that you have to change, or the tools that you have to accelerate that growth. The other thing I just want to touch on before we get into the case study itself, where I want to spend most of my time, because that's just a whole lot more fun than me talking to you about slides and deals. So it's a deep dive into the deal structure. So buyers are not going to pay a full cash offer if there is some risk in the business, or if the valuation is on the highest of the market, right? So we do, it more often than not, see some creative financing in there, whether that's earnouts, seller financing, some equity, some holdback, milestone payments, things like that. However, it can be really beneficial for a seller who maybe wants to get on that higher end of that valuation, or maybe they are selling to someone who's absolutely got a proven record of scaling Amazon businesses, and they want a bit of that piece of the pie in the future. So we can get creative around that. It's about understanding the seller's reason for sale, their urgency for sale, and the risks of the business. And those things are going to determine um, what what type of financing will come up, or what type of deal structure. I think the key thing I always want to tell people is you want to have options. Like if you want to be able to have the option of a cash offer. You want to be able to have an option of an earnout or seller financing. And if the business is a high risk business, you will not have that option, um, because buyers will be so concerned about the risk. They'll like the business and they'll like the brand and whatnot, but they'll be concerned about the risk. So they will always come through with earnout, seller financing and whatnot. If you've got a really strong brand that's got some scale, that's been growing, that's got really good metrics, then you'll see those cash offers and you'll have some more leverage there. So options is just better than kind of pigeonholing you there. So um, what I want to go through today, so I'm going to break it up into 4 parts, and we're going to dive into that case study. So we're going to look at the performance, which is the tangible things that we look at in evaluation. We're going to look at the goodwill and the intangible aspect of it, the documentation, as I mentioned before, and the scalability. I truly believe that you need to have a really good understanding of these key 4 things to be able to get a good valuation, and be able to move the deal along nicely. It can be, look, selling your business, it is a bit of a roller coaster sometimes. It can be highly emotional when you've built a brand for 10, however long years, and you've got someone picking it apart. So if we can make that process as smooth as possible, that's the job that my team want to do, and that's what we want to set you up for. So the business we're looking at today is Lavish Comforts. So it is an Amazon business which is selling bedding and like in the homeware niche. It is a beautiful brand. It is, as you can see, got some scale to it. So um, I want to first preface that I think this is a highly attractive business, and I'm looking at it today forensically to say, not to say there's any bad parts about it, but just to say, hey, where are the opportunities for us to get you a better valuation in the future? So you can see that this business is generating $1.43 million in revenue, um, and it's got some scale to it, right? It is not easy to get to that point. A lot of businesses fail before that point, and it's got some scalability to it. That holds some credit, and you'll see that as we kind of get into the metrics and the further four pieces. You'll see the year-on-year growth is a little bit stagnant. So it's declined by 1.44. I consider that pretty stagnant. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But ideally, we want things in growing, but it's not declining by a whole lot. It's just we need to understand what's going on there. Is it just that the founders stepped away a little bit, not concentrated on it? Or is there something going on that is going to continue to further grow? Further decline in the growth. Average order value is nice, healthy. It's not too big. It's not too small. Um, Gross margins are very healthy at 77%. I'd say typically anything over 60% is nice and healthy there. The EBITDA. So I'm not in, you'll see it's there in red. I'm not saying that it's not good. I'm saying that we don't have the information for it to be calculated. And that's a challenge, right? That's a challenge for a buyer and for myself to be able to give accurate information there. So if we look at the contribution margin just as an example of, right, it's 24%, it's fairly healthy. Everything's looking, it's telling us it's looking good. But again, I'm guessing because I don't have the real EBITDA there. If we look, one of the things that does, if we dive into the numbers a little bit more, one of the things that really does stand out to me is that there's 117 SKUs. However, the top three are contributing to almost 70% of the revenue, and the top one is contributing to 33%. So that begs me to wonder why are there so many SKUs? What are they contributing to? Are they kind of, for a lack of better term, dead weight in the business? Are they causing more effort, more costs than what's actually being rewarded for that? And what does the inventory value look like? Typically, we value inventory at cost, at landed cost. No one makes money on it. It's just that's what it costs me to do, and that's just a fair game. However, if the inventory is aged, and that depends on the buyer, but typically 6 to 12 months or longer, they will not, um, A, they may not take it, or B, they will heavily discount it. So if I'm looking at this, that's as a buyer, that's going to be a concern. And depending on the size of the inventory, right? $100,000 of inventory. Okay, great. 200, $300,000 inventory, and we're like, wow, it's starting to get big. Like that's an extra additional cost that we may not even know is good inventory. So that's something to kind of dig into, think about there, and that would be considered a risk. Customer acquisition, it looks really healthy from my perspective of what buyers look at. If it was, say, very reliant on PPC, which is only 44% of the revenue, if that was, 70-80%, then the buyers are kind of starting to, it's not necessarily there's anything wrong with that. It's just if we can balance that out to something like this, it does take less pressure off your marketing metrics, right? There's a little bit of pressure off that. There's pressure off putting so much cash flow into the ads, so it takes pressure off your cash flow, and to some degree, organic is just a more favorable presence for people because they are often concerned about what platforms will do when with paid marketing, and you take that reliance off a little bit. The ROAS, that's something that that does appear to be in the mid. As might say, okay, great, you're at least getting a 2.83 on your return, but it's not something I would probably highlight to buyers. And your ACOS, so this one's not necessarily bad. We just have to understand what state the business is at. So if the business is, say, growing, you're testing a lot of products, and there's a story behind why it is in that state, then we can understand. If you're like, no, everything's optimized and it's sitting at 35.3, then we kind of have to understand what's going on a bit there. But one of the really good key things I like about Lavish Comforts is the marketing spend is 15% of the revenue. Now, that for an e-commerce store is really important because cash flow can be challenging, right? You've got a lot of costs in there. It's your inventory and marketing, if you've got employees, things like that, and so that can eat up your margins. If you haven't got such a reliance or a high spend on your marketing, it just takes that pressure off. But that is a big one. That's a big slide, right? And that is because buyers really will dive into the data when looking at evaluation, and it will be quite heavy on their decision. It can feel like, if you've built a brand, it can feel like, geez, they're just picking it apart with the numbers, right? However, if we go into the Goodwill and intangibles, this is where your branding, your niche, your operations all come in. So this is a highly sought after niche by buyers. It is an evergreen niche. So what I mean by that is people are always going to be buying this. It's you'll stay on trend somewhat, but it's not like fashion where you're having to renew yourself all the time. So it's a very sought after niche. It's also typically it's selling to the woman of the household who is the decision maker in a lot of the time, and that's a really good customer. It is competitive. Now, you might think about that as, oh my goodness, that's not a good thing. However, I beg to differ because of the business is the size that it is. Buyers will strategically want to buy a business such as Lavish Comforts because she has built it up. It's got the size to it, and therefore they don't have to do that piece. They don't have to try and compete with her. They don't have to enter the market and test the products. She has got products that work, and if they optimize it, their scalability will, like their ability to grow the business will just accelerate. So I think even if you are in a competitive niche and you've been able to build this type of scale, and when I say this type of scale, it can differ, but a lot of the time buyers do like to see 1 mil in revenue or above. So that's kind of cracking the code a little bit. Operations, she's got two VAs, which is great. That's efficient. It's taking her off doing some of that admin work or whatever they're responsible for. However, a key piece of this is the owner is actually doing 30 hours a week at a salary which is 20% of the market rate. This is a really challenging thing in valuations because what it does is almost every time a buyer comes in, they're going to adjust that profitability. So they're going to come in and say, okay, you're paying yourself, let's say 20K, right? For example. However, it actually costs someone 80K in the market to do what you do. Therefore, we're going to adjust it up to 80K. We go back and forth and that adjusts the profitability, which in turn adjusts the valuation. So as brokers, we do our best to educate about this piece. We will do some adjustments in what we believe is fair in order to do this. However, that is, I guess, a bit of a red flag in this case. She has worked with a reliable supplier for 10 years. That's fantastic. And she's in discussions for a secondary backup supplier. She got ahead of me there because that is a key thing. It's I wouldn't say but it's at a risk, right? So they're going to assess that. Finally, she's in the US market, which is considered a key market. It's premium pricing, it's scalable, and Amazon is a really key platform there. However, no customer data due to the Amazon model. I put this to me isn't necessarily an absolute red flag because buyers for Amazon businesses, they know that, right? So they may decide to build a Shopify store alongside this if they want to start doing that. However, they're buying Amazon store knowing you don't own the customer data. Finally, she's got fantastic reviews. For example, her top seller, 3,738 reviews, 4.4 stars. Fantastic. All right, number 3. So if I look at this, I break down the 3 things that we really need to verify. I did leave some stuff off here, which I can talk about at the end. But the absolute key thing a buyer is going to want to verify is the financials. So if you've got the revenue, that is easy. You've got the dashboard, you've got the platform to be able to do that. The COGS, they're going to want to verify all the invoices there. Again, if you've got your dashboard there, that should be able to do it. So that stuff is easy. The expenses is where we get a bit of a challenge. And you can see in the red here, this is where we come up against that EBITDA again. Sometimes people do put personal expenses through businesses for tax purposes. Pretty common. We all understand that. However, we have to be able to have the documentation and verification to distinguish between what's personal expense and what is not. And so you may be asked for things like bank accounts, invoices, anything that will be able to break down the difference in that. In this case, a true EBITDA, and this is just from what I've talked to the owner about so far, a true EBITDA couldn't be found. And so we're still guessing this stage. It's only once you've verified all this documentation that you're no longer guessing. And that is where you're like, this is where the valuation is. A couple of other key documentation or verification things you're going to need to do is your marketing, your account health, all that sort of stuff, but that goes back up to that Amazon dashboard. So I think Amazon store, it does clean up this sort of stuff pretty easily. It's just those things at the end that are tricky to track. And finally, scalability. So like I said before, buyers do not buy something just to sit on it. They buy it to scale it. So you've got your growth levers there, and they're just a few. You know, can the products transfer to additional markets? Can you bring in new products? Can you go on additional platforms? If there's challenges in that, that's going to add to that risk. Some restrictions, for example, if you've only got that one supplier, do they have the capacity to be able to scale at the scale a new buyer would want to do? You know, can they go 2x, 3x within a matter of months? Can your employees handle that? And can your cash flow handle that? Remember, the owner is only taking 20% of what the market rate is. If they adjust for that, that's going to affect that cash flow. Can that cash flow then support the scale? So that's the in-depth analysis a buyer is going to do just on the top level to get a valuation, which they will say, okay, we're ready to put in an offer. And so if the owner of Lavish Comforts came to me and said, Fiona, can you please give me a valuation based on the information I've shared with you all today? I would say I have an indicative valuation for Lavish Comforts because each buyer is going to come with their own valuation. They're going to analyze all this, and it may be a little bit more, it may be a little bit less, it may be major different. So the buyer, a couple of things that I would say to her up front. You are doing 30 hours a week. The buyer is likely wanting you to stay in the business or have an extended handover period. And that therefore is going to create a creative financing situation because they don't want to just hand you a bunch of cash and you say, yeah, sure, I'll stay in for 6 months. And then you run away with that cash. So that's where they're going to say, okay, we'll keep you in, we'll keep you working, and we'll give you a big bonus at the end or something like that. And so with that in mind, I would say, hey, we probably go to market a 3.2x with the expectation of selling for a 2.8, around that, right, of EBITDA. Again, I don't have the EBITDA, so we need to adjust all that. But given, assuming the EBITDA was similar to what we quoted before, we'd be looking at a 1.11 asking price with the expectation of just under $1 million. And this is based on real experience and real markets. The last 2 7-figure e-commerce businesses I sold were 2.7x and 2.8x. And one of them was all cash up front. The other one was 50% cash and 50% earn out. So the different risks there. And so these are just 4 areas buyers will always assess for risk. Performance. Think, what do the numbers and data tell me? Goodwill and intangibles. What is positive and strong and what is limited in the business? Documentation. Can everything be verified? And scalability. Can they add value and scale the business? So I'm going to leave it there and let Thomas jump in. He's going to give a bit more of a deep dive into that same brand and talk about how we can get that 1.1 to much, much higher valuation. I'll hand it to you, Thomas.
Great, thank you so much. Let me share my screen here. Okay, can you see my screen, Fiona?
It's loading. Yes, good to go.
Okay, perfect. So a bit about myself. So I've been selling on Amazon since 2015. I have 4 brands of my own that are run pretty much on autopilot at this point. I built a company called Top Dog. We have an annual summit that we bring in 7+ figure sellers to it every year. I helped some different partnerships over the years and also helped some sellers exit their businesses. I've done a lot of one-on-one consulting over the years with different companies that are not Amazon sellers, such as aggregators, SaaS companies in the space. And I built AlphaPack. AlphaPack is our main program where we help sellers on a one-on-one consultation with me to help them scale from 7 to 8 figures. And I also spoke at pretty much every major event in the industry and also wrote the book, Ride the Amazon Wave. That is a book for active sellers that are trying to scale or exit their business. So currently I'm living in Thailand. I'm originally from Israel, but currently I live in Koh Samui, Thailand. So this is why we're doing this at this time of the day. So why am I helping sellers get to 8 figures? Well, let's dissect like what a 7-figure business look like, similar to Becky's business, Lavish Comfort, that we just talked about. So let's say you have $1 million business. Usually you will spend at least 15% tacos, so 150K on PPC. You will have some refunds as well. You will have about 40% of Amazon fees in 2026, believe it or not. And let's say you spend about 20% on cost of goods. That leaves you with about 200K of gross margin. You have some money tied up with new products, some more money tied up in inventory somewhere. So you're left with 100K a year that you make in profit that you can put in your pocket. And this is before taxes. And I think anyone that I know who built this business built it to have more freedom, to have more time or whatever on their hands. And this is not what they had in mind when they got into this. And I think 8 figures, what it does, when you get to 8 figures, you can get a bigger exit, a bigger multiple, bigger valuation. You can get into retail more easily. You can continue automating the business if you want, or you can continue scaling. But 8 figures, what it really does, it gives you options. So as I mentioned, I created Alpha Pack, helping sellers get from 7 to 8 figures, which is basically a one-on-one consultation program with a lot of things in the back of it to just help you get there. And we have a thing that we call the goal retriever, which is what I'm going to cover with you today. And you're just going to do it yourself right now. If you want, you can use your phone for it, or you can use your desktop. So the goal retriever, it looks like this. So the goal of every brand, I believe, is to get to 8 figures or to an exit. I treat those as the same thing. Let's say you want to exit at $5 million or $7 million point. When you reach that point with your brand, the buyer, as Fiona mentioned, will still want to continue scaling their brand over to 8 figures and beyond. So this is why the goal for your brand is always going to be 8 figures. So there are 3 things holding sellers back from getting to that point. One is operational chaos. The second is inconsistent sales. And the third is decreasing profit and margin. So we want to get more freedom, more stability, and more profit. So what I want all of you to do right now is either scan this QR code, and Tori, Fiona, if you can put the link to the goal retriever in the chat. So this is something I created with Lovable for those who are using AI these days. So it's going to look something like this. When you open it up, you can open it up again, as I said, on your phone or on desktop. So on your phone, you just want to twist it horizontally if you do it on your phone. So I'm just going to walk you through one by one here, just so you know what each of them is. Also, if you hover over it, if you click on it, you will see what it is. And all you're going to do is you're going to color it in red, yellow, and green. And this will help you identify where should you focus on first, at least, and where should you focus on next to scale your brand to 8 figures. So when you click on one of them, you will see something that looks like this. Okay, and you will just going to choose like red, yellow, or green, depending on where you're at. So let me start with the top left corner on freedom. So when you talk about productivity booster, this is how productive you feel you and your team are every single day. So do you know what you need to do on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis? Do you have clear KPIs for the team? Does everyone know what they need to do every single day? And do you feel everyone is like super productive internally? The system builder is about what systems do you have in place right now in terms of, do you have organized tasks in a tool such as Asana or ClickUp or Trello? Is it clear to you how to, for your team, going from researching a product all the way to launching a product and scaling a product afterwards? Do you have documentation for SOPs, for like video tutorials and different things that revolve around your business? And then the Autopilot system is, do you have a team that supports you and allows you to be on autopilot? Autopilot, if it's green, that means you can currently take 2 weeks off with no laptop or no phone if you wanted to. And the business not only sustains itself, it's also scalable without you having involved in it. If it's only able to sustain itself, if you have people taking care of supply chain, PPC, and pricing, coupons, deals, all the day-to-day aspects of the business, it's probably yellow. And if you don't have a lot of it, like Becky, again, in Lavish Comforts, where she's putting like 30 hours a week, she only has like 2 VAs, she's still heavily involved in the business, it's going to be red. When we go over to stability, marketplace expander is which marketplaces do you currently sell in, and you have potential to get into other marketplaces. So are you currently only on Amazon.com? Are you also maybe selling in Amazon Europe? Do you have potential on Shopify and TikTok Shop, Walmart, and you're not there yet? Catalog expander is all about expanding your catalog as much as possible to either new variations or selling more of the same stuff you already have. So basically going deeper with your vertical products by launching more of the same things and just getting more market share that way. The impossible product formula is about going after products that have a moat around them and are difficult to copy, either with patents or they're in restricted categories, or even categories with a lot of variations, like Becky's product where she has dozens of variations on a listing, and it's going to be difficult for new competitors to come in because it's a competitive niche and she's doing really well. She created some moat around her product. Traffic metrics is about any type of traffic you send to your listings. So if you're only using PPC on Amazon, that's probably red. Maybe you're doing some Google ads and Meta ads and TikTok and so on. So it's going to be yellow, and maybe green if you use like everything I just mentioned and send traffic to different channels that you sell in. X factor is, are you doing anything to either grow your audience right now or sell more things that is not another physical product? For example, if you sell a digital course, or if you have an insert card that offers them something to get like their email, for example, if you offer engraving on your Shopify site, all of those things I consider X factor, because you're doing something different to either acquire more customers or you sell more things without selling more products. And finally, product maximizers, are you getting the most out of your product? It starts from images and SEO, but it continues with your cost of goods, with your pricing, coupons, deal structure, all of the things you can do to get the most out of your product. So if I take this and I look at what Becky did from Lavish Comforts, this is what this is not hers yet. So if you click on the bottom after you fill this out, you can save my goal retriever, and it will just save a screenshot of this on your phone or your computer, and you can just review this later. You can also talk to my team about this after, and we can just help you out to kind of figure out what you should do next. So let's go into Lavish Comfort. So this is the brand on Amazon. This is the main product that you see here. She also has a couple of other products. And this is her goal retriever right here. So you can see it's all red and yellow. This is very standard when you work with seven-figure sellers. This is usually what we see. And I don't have the time to focus on all 9 pillars here. And also when we start working with a seller, we don't focus on all 9 things at the same time. We usually take 2 or 3 to start off with. And the goal is to make all of this green eventually. So I'm going to point out a few things. So the first is product maximizer that I want to dive deeper in. The second is marketplace expander, and the third is going to be Autopilot System. So first, let's talk about product maximizer. So product maximizer, the thing I love to do the most when I look at a brand is pick up money that's currently on the floor. And again, the goal is to squeeze all the juice I can from the product. So this is, as I mentioned, images, SEO, A/B testing, COGS, pricing, coupons, deals, and so on. So all of these things are things we can focus on. So again, I don't have the time to focus on everything here. I'm just going to mention a few things that this current brand is not doing. So these are all of our products here. You can see that. And then I done X-ray to just see how the sales were going. And you can see in Becky's case here, she doesn't really, I don't call this a brand. I call this, she has a product. She doesn't have a brand. As Fiona mentioned, like 3 SKUs are making 66% of the revenue. 1 SKU is making 33%. And all of those SKUs that are like at the top are coming from this one parent listing. So it's really currently a product and not a brand. It's not necessarily a huge disadvantage. She just needs to be aware that this is the case of where she's at right now. So one tool that I love to use is called Keepa. For those who don't know it, it shows you all the history, everything about the product. So this is her main product here. And you can see the blue line is her price, and then the green line is her BSR. So if you look at these 2 things here, you can see that she lowered her price. She had either deals or just lowered the price. And the BSR, the green line, as a result, went lower. And this is what you want to do when you have a very good selling product. You want to have, it's preferred if you can run a best deal once a month for 2 weeks. So I took one of our top competitors here just to show you the difference. And you can see they are very consistent when they run these best deals. And you can see what happens to their BSR every time they do so. So the fact that Becky didn't run those consistently for the entire year, she probably lost a lot of money as a result. And she could have sustained a much lower BSR throughout the year just by having consistent deal flow to her listing, instead of just running it more recently this year from January and then March. And if she just did the same thing last year, she would be much better off right now. So what I recommend for any product that's doing over 50K a month in sales, run best deals once a month for 2 weeks. If you have a lower selling product doing 30K, 20K, you can test this out. But if it's less than that, like 5K, 10K a month, it's not going to have the same impact here. The reason this works is because you already ranked very well organically. This gives you like a red badge. You have a best deal running, and then you just get more organic sales and more PPC sales as a result. So this is why it does so well. And the reason you want to run it every month is because you will see that usually when the deal is over, you lose a bit of rank, but then another deal comes in, so you get it back. And it's very usually just stay pretty consistent throughout the year, especially when you sell evergreen products like this one. So that's tip number one when it comes to deal flow. Second thing here is she doesn't have a discount or deal running. So you always want to have some sort of a discount. So she doesn't have the crossover price on every single variation. She has it on some of them, but not on all of them. So if you look at the competitor here, you can see that they have the crossover price on each variation. So if you don't have this and you want to have it, the way to do it is just sell one unit through FBM at list price, and then you get that crossover price. So you just add another SKU to your listing at that price of list price. You sell one unit, and you will have that crossover price to your FBA listing. Next is the main image. So I approached my friend at Product Opinion and asked for his favor here to just, because I said that she has image A, as you can see, B and C are her competitors. And I told him, I don't think her image is very good. It looks very clumsy in terms of the product itself. It doesn't feel premium, even though she has a premium product selling for over $100. And she has a lot of competitors selling for like $30, $40 for, not as good of a quality as she has. The other problem she has in her listing is that it's all white on white. It's like white background on a white product, very difficult to see on mobile. And also the product doesn't really stand out as much. And you can see that B and C look a lot better. So using Product Opinion, the way you can run a test is like hide all of the reviews, just give everything 4.5, keep the same title, make everything look consistent. And then you can see that people chose option C more than option B, and then option A is her listing, and you can see that fell behind. With these types of products where it's like people are looking for this thing specifically, the conversion is usually very high. They know what they're looking for. They know what the product is. So if you get the click, you are very likely to get the sale. So it's that much more important to get a very good main image. So this is also why people mentioned like why they liked it. So they mentioned the contrast. And also, I think it looks like, especially option C, looks like a premium bedroom. It looks like, king size bed. It looks appropriate to the target customer who's going to buy this product. So what we did is, again, Product Opinion created this image for us, which is like an AI image. I think it can be a lot better, but the goal was just let's create another image, just use it as a base, and then see if we can just improve the results based on everything that I just said. So people mentioned they don't want it like too light or too dark. They want contrasting colors. They want a warmer tone for the image, simple styling, and to make it look like very puffy and obviously look luxurious at the same time. So it looks like a luxury bedroom. I will say this image is not perfect. Like I think like the lamp is a bit off. It can look a bit better. The bed doesn't seem very big, so I think that can be done better. But even with this image that is not perfect, we ran a test and we saw that this won the other two images by far. So this is 66% certainty, which is not the best. It basically means that if you're going to run another 100 tests, this is going to win 66% of the time. The last test I showed you was like 99% certainty. So it was much better. But again, the point is, if she just improves the main image, she can do a lot better. So with Product Maximizer, again, the main points are best deals run monthly for 2 weeks. Discount always have a crossover price, and main image you want to test with Product Opinion. Then you can use Amazon Experiments. We also have our own A/B testing tool that we created internally for us and for our Alpha Pack members. I think this should at least improve conversion rate and overall sales by 20%. And this is being very modest, as I will show you in a second. And you want to keep in mind that optimizing the main image is a never-ending process. You're always going to have new competitors coming in, always improving based on what you have. So you have to stay on top of it and always keep improving. And you also need someone on top of this. Becky currently is doing too much in her business, and she cannot do this as well. And I will talk about this in a second. Just to show one case study. So this is like a seller board screenshot. So you can see red line is PPC. The purple line is the profitability. So you can see PPC spend was very high. And then all of a sudden profit jumped a lot higher than PPC. And each line here, each column is a month. So what happened here? What happened when this shifted? So you might think, oh, we optimized PPC or we did this. But in reality, all we did is we changed the main image. So this just shows you that you can get from like 15K net profit to 30K net profit. Obviously, this is like an extreme example, but it just shows you this brand doubled in profit overnight just by optimizing their main image. So that was Product Maximizer. Next, I want to jump to Marketplace Expander. So Marketplace Expander is all about getting to new marketplaces. And I think in the year 2026, launching a new marketplace is no longer playing offense. It's playing defense. If you're only on Amazon, you will lose to the competitors who are everywhere. So I know that a lot of sellers are just focused on Amazon. I was as well. And this year, more than any year before, I have to learn other marketplaces. I have to launch products that fit those other marketplaces in order for me to win. So when I, again, look at this listing, Becky gets to choose what marketplaces, what other products she wants to launch that will fit those other marketplaces. So again, she currently has a product and she doesn't have a brand. So the way to think about this is when you have a product, that's basically all you have some sort of a target customer. As Fiona mentioned, in her case, it might be like the woman buying it for the home. And after you have that product, you really want to get into the niche. So that means she can sell more blankets, or she can start selling pillows, or she can start selling that types of products. And above that, you have a brand. So a brand is, the goal is not, she doesn't have to stay in bedding necessarily. She can go to anything as long as it hits the same target customer. So she can say, I'm going to sell like premium kitchenware, and that's also fine because she's staying with the same target customer who can buy more products from her. So when you go after a niche, you usually have that blanket and you just go deeper into it. So you just launch more things that are similar or more blankets or whatever. But every customer is essentially buying one product from you. They're not going to buy 5 blankets from you. So when you build a brand and you launch more verticals, different types of products like kitchenware, or you even launch pillows and different things, that's when you have a brand and the same customer hopefully buys 3, 4, 5 products from you. And that really helps you get into platforms such as Shopify, where you care about the AOV, so average order value, and LTV, which is lifetime value of the customer. So currently, the brand is doing 19% of its revenue and profit on Amazon. So just to give you like a brief explanation of each of them and how we see them. So Amazon is a platform, is a search engine. When someone shops on Amazon, they're typing in a keyword, they already know what they want, they search for it, and they buy it. Shopify is, again, all about average order value and lifetime value of the customer. You want to be at a point where they pay either at least $50, better if they even pay $80 as the average order value. And then TikTok is all about if the product can go viral almost on its own, and it has some unique points to it as well. With this specific product, I think there is a lot of potential on both Shopify and TikTok, and I want to show you why that is. So just a few examples here. So this is Calodata. For those who don't know, it's a software that helps you analyze TikTok products in stores. So you can see this product that is very different, like it's different. It's not like the exact same product. They invented like their own type of blanket here. And I can show this quick video. There is not going to be any sound, I think. But you can see here, this video is a very simple video. You can see it's a very cool, unique blanket called like Marshmallow Comforter. And this short 8-second video did 165K in revenue, 7 million views, and it sold almost 2,000 units on its own. This brand did 1.82 million in the past 30 days. So you can see that this niche, right? This niche of blankets obviously can work on a platform such as TikTok. Another example is this brand here. So this brand did 184K in revenue. This is over the last 6 months, and these are their products. So these are much closer to what Becky is currently selling. And you can see what they currently have is they have like a 3-piece comforter or 7-piece comforter, and those do really well. And it's a much cheaper product. You can see the average unit price on the right side here. The top one is like $39. The second one is $57. So I also checked those on Amazon, and I said those are doing really well on Amazon as well. So this is the same brand, and you can see that the top product is doing like $500,000 a month on Amazon. And a lot of that is due to the fact that they get so much engagement and traffic on TikTok. A lot of that is spillage over to Amazon, and a lot of those sales coming from Amazon on top of the 854K they make every month, like in the past 6 months on TikTok. So another brand, this one did 273K in the past 6 months. And again, you can see those on Amazon. This did like 734K a month on Amazon with like 2,000 reviews, which is not that much. And this just shows me that she can sell like different things. So my recommendation would be to expand to either TikTok or Shopify. I didn't want to show Shopify here, but it clearly has potential as well. But if she sold like a cheap comforter set, and when I say set, that's like a 3-piece or 7-piece, similar to these competitors here, she could also sell a premium comforter set of 3-piece and 7-piece if she wanted to stay more premium priced. That's also okay. She could sell like extra large, like the first one I showed you on TikTok, not the Marshmallow one, the second one. What they did is they essentially did one that is a bit larger than a king size bed, so it falls all the way to the floor, and a lot of people seem to like that feature. So I think that can be very good if she did that as a larger set of either premium or just cheap one. And also I think very specific colors. So you saw that green one doing really well, and it seems that a lot of people like that color. So I think that's another thing she could definitely do. The goal is to start small and go broader as you expand the brand. So when I say start small, if you think about the comforter, that's a very competitive niche, especially if you try to launch like a white one. So you might want to think, okay, I'm going to launch something that is a bit more niche. So I might launch a pink one, or I might launch a very big one or a very small one. As soon as that's getting traction, then you can start launching variations that are more competitive and are broader and broader over time. So the way to expand a brand, the way to think about it is you want to start niche and then go broader over time. So next steps. I think it will likely be tough to just launch any product just on Amazon on its own. I would start focusing on either TikTok or Shopify with new products. I would choose one main product and go all in from the ones I mentioned or other ones. 1 or 2 new products can more than double the business. I think you can all agree that you are always one product away from doubling your business. And do keep in mind that the majority of Amazon products don't work off of Amazon. And if you're not launching as a brand, you are dying. Every big brand that I know is constantly launching products. The products that got you to 7 figures are not going to get you to 8 figures. This is another misconception. I think sellers got to 1 million with like 5 products. So they were thinking, I'm going to launch 5 more and get to 2 million. But not necessarily. I would really try to, when you reach 7 figures, you don't want to launch a product that's going to get 10K a month. That doesn't make a lot of sense. You want to go after products that will generate at least 50K a month in revenue with a 20% margin is what you're really looking for. And what buyers will also want. They want more seller products. They want what they call hero products. So that's going to help you a lot. And finally, someone on your team needs to be responsible for new products. It cannot just be on you. So that was the marketplace expander. And finally, I want to talk about the Autopilot system. So I know Becky is going to watch the recording because it's late right now in the US. but she's probably thinking, oh, there's so much I need to do when she listens to something like this. Or if you guys are going to live events, or you listen to this webinar and you think, oh, there's so much I need to do right now in my business, it probably means you're not on autopilot. It probably means you don't have the team that can take care of things and can just watch this recording right now and just say, okay, let's just implement and let's just get going. So again, I want you to go back to why did you start this business? You wanted to have more time, you wanted to spend time with your family, you wanted to travel. And do you actually have that right now? Or are you working harder than you ever did and when you had a day job or whatever? So if you think about this business, right, of an e-commerce business, you really have 4 options on how to get out of it, right? You can sell the business, you can automate it, you can transfer the business to your kids, or you can go bankrupt. Those are really your 4 options. I don't think the last 2 are very feasible. I don't think that's probably going to happen. And even if you do want to sell the business, you want to have it as automated as possible. As Fiona mentioned, if she's working 30 hours a week, it's gonna not help her valuation, and buyers will want her to stay on board longer, and it will just have a lower pool of buyers that are willing to buy the business. So we all heard that the bubble of aggregators is down. Aggregators are not really buying businesses anymore. It's a different type of buyer that is buying businesses right now. And you might think, well, multiples are not 7x anymore. So you might think I'm not going to sell. But again, even if you do sell, you're very likely to start another business. And you might think, okay, I'm not going to build a team right now. I'm going to sell this business and then I'm going to do the next business the right way. What I tell sellers is, why not just do it right now? Why not get this run right? Learn how to build a team, learn how to own a business, how to be like a proper CEO of a company. And then your next business is just going to be a lot easier to build. And again, a strong business is a business that's ready to be sold. And that means you cannot be heavily involved in the business for that, in order for that to happen. So it doesn't matter what you do, the goal is to always automate the business as much as possible. What most sellers do is they launch product after product after product, and at some point it's all going to collapse on their head. What you want to do is you want to build a team and systems, and at the same time as you launch products. As I mentioned before, you're 1 product away from doubling your business. And one thing I can tell all of you is you're also 1 employee away from doing the same thing. Anyone here who has a good employee on their team knows what I'm talking about and will agree. So most sellers, and Becky is the same way, most sellers hire people for specific roles, 1 for customer support, 1 for PPC, 1 for graphic design, 1 for inventory, and they all report to you. So you're still very much the bottleneck in your own business. And this is the worst position to be in. And I will say it's probably easier to just do it yourself than having all these people doing like 1 specific task. What you should do instead, and this is what I've been teaching for many years now, is you want to delegate ownership. You don't want to delegate tasks. So you want to hire managers to do everything in the business. So no real experience is needed to make this happen. And you want to delegate the day-to-day tasks first. And then you want to delegate the growth aspect second. You want to focus on outcome, not how much time they spend working. And you want to have like people that actually care about the company and want to grow with the company for years to come and are not going to stay with you for like 3 months and quit. So this is what the structure looks like in essence. So you're the CEO, you hire 2 people. You hire 1 marketing person, 1 operations person. So operations have 2 people underneath themselves. So 1 is going to be SEO, so doing keyword research, PPC, competitor research. Another person doing supply chain. And then the marketing manager is going to have 3 people, 1 doing customer experience, so anything from customer support, reviews, and competitor research on their inserts and more for like existing products and understanding what's being done in the space. And then a creative person doing listings and copy, images and videos, and product research. And lastly is going to be a social media person doing launches, TikTok, Instagram, anything to do with social media and launching new products. So the 2 managers are your only 2 hires, and they will hire people underneath themselves, but they will start by doing everything themselves first, learn everything themselves, and then they can just hire and delegate as the company grows. Those 2 people are going to be in charge of strategy and KPIs for the company, and you can still be in charge of bookkeeper and accountant. Some people also hire a 3rd person, which is like a finance person, which is also okay. And then everything else is going to be outsourced to experts. So the inventory person is going to outsource to suppliers, freight forwarders, 3PLs. Creative person is going to work with photographers, graphic designers, copy, and then social media person is going to work with influencers across the board. And you are going to be in charge of what I call green lights. So it's not that you're not doing anything in the business anymore. It's just that everything is running by you. So if there is a new product, you can still get samples to your house. Every new order that comes in, every new PO, it's still going to go through you. You're still going to give the green light. You can give like the final payment if you want. But you are only giving green lights for the company, and they own all of the tasks themselves. The left thing, the operations, is more analytic type of person, really into spreadsheets, very analytical, loves numbers, and the right person is a lot more creative. So if they look at an image, they will say this looks good or this looks bad, and those are the two heads that you want to have in your company. The left is much more day-to-day operations, so what's done daily, weekly, monthly. The right is a lot more growth-based, and it's more like a project manager. They have like a beginning and an end for everything. So if they research until launch is a project, getting into a new marketplace is a project. So that's what that person is in charge of. And when they show this to sales that they're doing everything on their own, they're like, oh, I'm too busy right now to worry about this, and I'm not going to do it right now. I will say the earlier you do this, the better. And a lot of sales tend to think, but I need to have all my systems in place, and I need to have like tasks organized and all of that. The truth is, you don't need any of that. You can look at this as a startup. And if you think about all the companies above, all started in garages, and your business is currently probably similar to that. Becky scaled her business to around $1 million, which is amazing to do almost on her own. But she just needs to treat it like a startup. Like she basically bootstrapped her own business, and now she needs help. And all these companies start with like 3-4 friends who kind of built it together. Becky is currently missing those like 2-3 people to just help her out. So again, those 2 managers are what she's missing. So I do believe that if I look at Lavish Comforts, again, she has 2 VAs right now. She needs to think, the way to do this is you want to build your structure. So you can do it as my Autopilot system. You can build your own. What will your 8-figure structure look like? Where does your current team fit within that? Either hire an operations person or promote one of her VAs if they're good for it. And after 3-6 months, I would suggest she hires like that marketing person that I mentioned. And good team members are paying you. You are not paying them anything. If she has a team member that can free up her time to find her next product or to get into TikTok or Shopify or whatever, obviously they are going to pay more than their annual salary. So in reality, like if you have a good team, they're going to be paying you, not paying them anything. And you either outgrow your people or they outgrow you. You really want to have people that grow with the company together and develop with the company. Because either you're going to fire them or they're going to quit on you. And learning how to become a CEO can only be done by doing. You cannot get a degree in being a CEO or anything like that. And learning how to hire people, how to fire people just takes, you just need to do it. So one quick thing. So one seller that we worked with was doing $50 million a year. And he told me, I'm going to launch 50 new products this year. And I'm like, why is that? Like he was very much what I call the driver in his business. He was just doing everything on his own. And his wife was helping out. He's like a bit older. He's like 60 years old. And I told him, what's your goal here? Like, are you just going to work harder? And again, everything is going to collapse over you. And he was working a lot of hours every single week. So I told him, instead of launching products, let's launch some employees. So we did that. And he was able to just take 2 days off every single week. And also be able to get to that point where he can take 2 weeks off vacation with no laptop. His wife is not touching the business anymore. And he's much happier. And he also scaled to 20 million afterwards. So yeah, so that's the Autopilot system. So bottom line, 8-figure roadmap for Lavish Comforts. What I would do is I would focus on main images, discounts, deals in the short term for her main product. Marketplace Expander, I would launch 1 or 2 products for TikTok, Shopify, and also products that hopefully fit Amazon as well. Autopilot, so I would hire an operations manager as soon as possible. And I believe this plan will first improve our margins, improve the multiple for the business, a lot of business to run without her after it's sold, and also eventually get the brand to 8 figures either with her or after she exits. So yeah, I hope this was helpful, everyone. And yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, Thank you, Toma. I think we'll just bring up my slides again because we have the information if people wanted to connect with Toma
Sure.
and myself. So you can scan the QR code there to our LinkedIn, and then Tori is just going to pop in our meeting links as well. So yeah, but we appreciate everyone joining. We hope you found value in this. Lavish Comforts is a great brand. Toma writes very grateful to be working with that seller, and we appreciate her letting us use her business as a case study as well.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, we wish everyone a great evening or day wherever you are in the world. And yeah, we will, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everyone.